We've just passed the halfway mark in Season 2 of House of the Dragon, and Episode 5 is something of a new beginning, a reset of sorts. It's called Regent, thanks to Aemon's new position, a big power shift, while the Blacks are having leadership questions of their own. Sir Simon tells Daemon each side has suffered great loss and will be unsure of what's to come. Blacks and Greens and all of Westeros must react to Rook's Rest, a battle that didn't go the way either side planned. Foremost is the immediate reaction to the deaths of Princess Rhaenys and Meleys, and the fall of King Aegon on Sunfire, whose condition is uncertain, made more so by the Green secrecy over his condition and their misdirection regarding what actually took place there. For the Blacks, there is much grief. Criston Cole hoped to awe the crowds of King's Landing with the head of Meleys, claiming the kill was made by the king himself. Yet many wonder, where is the victorious king? The dragon's head instead chills the crowd, casting a deep fear over them. The commons had never seen a large dragon killed. This shattered a myth of their invincibility. One bystander says this is a black omen, and that phrase has multiple meanings. One of which is that the Blacks will want revenge for the death of Meleys, and the inhabitants of King's Landing fear being caught in the middle. And they were already frightened, and beginning to starve. Even Gwaine Hightower says he's not sure they can call Rook's Rest a victory, not unlike the Battle of Burning Mill. 2 battles, 2 draws. Otto Hightower would never have made this mistake, neither would Alicent. Yet now the Greens are fully prepared to cast wisdom and those who speak it aside in favor of maximum carnage. In death, Rhaenys' dire predictions about a war between royal kin waged with dragons are fast coming true. As the council votes to make Aemon regent, no one aside from Grand Maester Orwyle takes Alicent's side. It's a callback to Ned Stark finding no ally but Barristan Selmy when Robert called for the assassination of young Daenerys and her unborn child. One person standing nearly alone against the madness of escalation. As the council listens to Aemon's commands, the camera focuses entirely on Alicent. She flinches at the bad decisions as her breathing gets heavier and heavier. When she hears that Aemon plans to close the gates, which we quickly see causes a riot, with more likely to come, it truly hits her how foolish they are and how powerless she has become to stop it all. But much of this is of her making. Immediately we see the consequences of locking the gates. Hugh and Kat attempt to flee for Tumbleton with their daughter, but are unable to leave. They're stuck in the city now, and their fears are stoked further when they hear that the order came from Aemon, not the king. One of the reasons the men elected Aemon over Alicent, according to them, is that women are not trained in war. This same point is made to Rhaenyra, and she accepts that it is actually a fair point, but she retorts to Sir Alfred that while men are trained for war, their experience is entirely a matter of books and practice fights. Also a fair point. In my favorite scene of the episode, Rhaenyra has Baela offer Lord Corlys Velaryon the position of Hand to the Queen. There may not be a man more experienced in war than him in all of Westeros. Lost in grief, he is at first embittered by the offer, exclaiming that his house has paid a high enough price already. But Baela expertly undoes this by pointing out it's not a price, but an opportunity to carry on the goal his wife died for, shaming him by saying Rhaenys fell in dragonfire trying to put Rhaenyra on the throne, and if need be, Baela herself will die in the same manner for that same purpose. This softens Corlys, and he offers to make her his heir, but she declines, saying that she is fire and blood, and his titles must pass to salt and sea. In an episode that makes clear that Westerosi culture does not prepare women for war, Corlys is properly shamed. How can a man, a veteran, allow the women in his family to do the fighting while he sits at home or sails into the West? Later in the episode, he seems to change his mind, closing his hand on the hand pin in a gesture of pained yet determined acceptance. Aemon remains somewhat inscrutable, rarely showing emotion. He doesn't even speak to his mother as Meleys' head passes by, though she notices the cat's paw dagger at his belt. She doesn't speak to him either, though the disgust and pain on her face speaks volumes. He doesn't speak when he's nominated for the regency either, waiting for it to be confirmed before calmly taking his place at the head of the table and then giving orders after claiming his brother's council orb. But he has an immediate distrust of Larys because his last name is Strong. Aemon also has a moment reminiscent of Daemon, or Littlefinger maybe, where we find him simply standing in front of the throne, regarding it quietly. At one point, the camera angles up at him, making him as tall as the statues, and it looks as if he's staring down at the throne, like he stared down at his brother in bed earlier in the episode. After a few moments, he realizes he's not alone. Helena is standing there, and she asks, was it worth the price? But again, Aemon keeps his thoughts to himself. Cole tries to clean the blood off his sword. Like Daemon's bloody dream hands, it's a sign of guilt, and a callback to Season 2, Episode 1, where Alicent herself tries to physically wash away her sins. Alicent asks Cole about Aemon during the battle, and Cole stops, only to say he doesn't know. He's holding back a bit, but probably not lying. Aemon likely flew straight back to King's Landing after, again, wordlessly leaving Cole behind with his brother at Rook's Rest. They probably haven't spoken since. While Orwell worked to save Aegon's life, deeply grossing us out in turn via the burns and blood and the squelching noises, Alicent is made to feel extra nervous given the presence of Silent Sisters who are known to dress the dead. But eventually, Aegon wakes up and calls to her. Alicent's fall from power in this episode is almost stunning. Not only does she lose her council seat and her chance to be regent, she realizes she's lost her power over Sir Criston and Lord Larys too. With the skull of Meraxes in the background amidst endless scrolls and tomes, Rhaenyra frets over her lack of education in battle, that her father never prepared her for it. But Mysaria points out there are other ways to fight a war and refers to Cole's mistake with Meleys's head. She says, to the discontented, rumors are feed, and to let her handle it. Rhaenyra seems to agree, and soon we see her getting ready for bed, but with a different handmaiden, because her usual Elinda Massey, daughter of one of her council members, is sent on an infiltration mission to King's Landing. We don't know exactly what Mysaria has in mind, but it involves the common folk, and we see who Elinda goes to visit. It's Diana, the barmaid and former handmaid who was raped by Aegon. Alicent paid her well to leave, but she clearly didn't go far. Earlier, we saw her working at the same bar Ulf was at when the king randomly showed up with his drinking scarred. The Vale makes an appearance as Lady Jane Eyre expresses displeasure to Rhaena. She wanted a dragon for defense and got 2 hatchlings instead. It was Vhagar, ridden by Visenya, who took the Eyrie during the conquest, and it's Vhagar she fears now. The matter appears unresolved for the moment, risking a delay in the Arryn troops' march. The Stark troops have marched, but they could face a delay anyway, like Robb Stark might have. The crossing offered by the twins of House Frey are the key to a faster march to Riverrun. Though much is made of Daemon and Aemon parallels, Jace, like his great-uncle/stepfather, leaves Dragonstone for the Riverlands without permission and begins to recruit. But the similarities fall off pretty quickly from there. Prince Jacaerys is not above using a bit of intimidation, but he actually offers things in return rather than simply demanding obedience. The Freys, Forrest and Serena, like Lady Jane Eyre, fear Vhagar and point out it is death to bear steel against one's liegelord. A line spoken by Robb Stark to the Greatjon, who was last seen captive at the twins. The Freys of this era also have their price. It's Harrenhal, deepening this parallel and the possible drama that could unfold, especially if Daemon continues to see himself as Rhaenyra's equal, or even superior rather than king, consort. Rhaenyra says that she is on a path no one before has trod, and that is true for Daemon as well. She would be the first ever ruling queen of Westeros were she to sit the throne, which would make Daemon the first king consort. And that lack of precedent is a source for some of these debates. Jace returns to Dragonstone to find his mother reading about Queen Visenya again. Even he finds this ominous, but she's more upset with having to stay out of danger than she is with his mission. Jace has won allies in the north, the Vale, and now the Freys, while Daemon is perhaps worse off than he started. While their armies are gaining strength, their air force lost its largest dragon. They need more, but how? Jace himself is proof that both parents need not be Targaryen in order to ride a dragon. He suggests, why not take that a step further and find riders amongst their distant extended family? Vermithor and Silverwing, close enough in size to Vhagar, are mentioned. They realize there must be scores and scores of candidates with a bit of Targaryen in their ancestry. Like Brown Ben Plum said, a drop of dragon. Rhaenyra calls it a mad idea, and the consequences of dragons, especially huge ones, given to randoms? Well, you can see her point, but that doesn't mean she won't do it. If Jace keeps having good ideas and winning allies, maybe Rhaenyra doesn't need Daemon after all. But she sends Sir Alfred as her emissary to help mend their alliance, and perhaps their relationship. Daemon seems to be rending alliances and relationships instead of mending them, however. When he commands the Brackens to kneel or die, they call his bluff. Rather than being upset, his desire to have them in his army only grows. Men as stubborn as Aemys Bracken are exactly the kind of men he wants on his side. He orders Willem Blackwood to do his worst, but on the sly, because there are certain things the crown must not be seen to do, a parallel to what Mysaria said to Rhaenyra. As Alicent is chief witness to the Greens' turn to greater violence as a strategy, Alice is witness to Daemon doing the same. He tells Sir Simon to levy the farmers from Antlers to Highheart to facilitate the massive repairs of Harrenhal and feed the crews. The ghost of Highheart comes to mind here. Recall that she haunts a grove of weirwood stumps that was put to the axe, just like Harrenhal is cursed by the old gods because Black Heron did the same to a nearby weirwood grove, according to Alice Rivers. Daemon himself has set aside Dark Sister for an axe, though Alice Rivers says it doesn't suit him. While wrapping his blisters, she tells him of the whispers she hears on the wind. Another person who hears and creates whispers on the wind, by the way, is Bran. It's a Field of Dreams scene. If you build it, the Rivermen will come, and Harrenhal has plenty of ghosts, while this shot reveals that the renovations are well underway. But it also remains Bat Country. Sir Simon says certain places like the Wailing Tower are so absolutely overrun with waste that you might say it's batshit insane. And certainly there is no shortage of fear and loathing in Harrenhal. Some of that fear comes when Alice hears the screams of the innocent Bracken commoners on the wind, and at one point Daemon appears to hear them as well, while Alice is staring at him from high above, giving the impression that she knows, and is perhaps sending the dreams to him? She says no upright man would stand for such things, and he retorts that he's not an upright man. Still, he says he will treat his men well once they follow him, but they might not follow him in the first place, because the loathing comes as Willem Blackwood's atrocities backfire. Despite forcing a Bracken surrender, after all, a group of angry Riverlords show up late at night to Harrenhal, denouncing Daemon to his face, calling him a tyrant. Willem either betrayed Daemon or royally screwed up. Instead of hiding Daemon's involvement in the raids as he was told, he had his men carry red and black Targaryen banners openly. It's a setback, perhaps a fatal one, but the Bracken said similar things, and it only made him more determined to bring them to his side. In his dreams, Laena appears again to ask accusingly if he's taking care of their daughters, but like Aemond, he has no answer for this ghost. He sleeps with his own mother, something even Targaryens don't do, though it's not clear he knows who she is until she calls him her favorite son. She also says that he's fearless and worthier of the crown than his brother, and a thin line of blood appears as he's touching her neck, perhaps symbolic of their bloodline and or the war within their family. Alice Rivers points out that Daemon barely knew his mother because she died when he was about 3, which might explain why he didn't recognize her in this dream. He doesn't actually know what his mother looked like. Daemon's mother is also mentioned by Rhaenyra and Baela when they discuss the death of Rhaenys. Princess Alyssa was the previous and only other rider of Meleys. Daemon himself tried to claim his mother's dragon first, but was rejected. Was he trying to bond with one of the few beings who knew his mother? Could more members of his family be next up in his dreams? Last but not least, shout out to George R. R. Martin's favorite new character, Cheese's dog, who stayed with his owner while he hung from the walls of the Red Keep and continued to follow him even after his corpse was cut down during the episode. Because everything is symbolic if you try hard enough. One could see this as a statement about the power of loyalty, but also about loyalty to the wrong person. And also about how amazing dogs are. Make sure to catch History of Westeros' full podcast episode where everything here and much more is discussed in greater detail, and check out our preview episodes filled with predictions and guesses and theories and spoilers, but never leaks. Valar Rereadus.